Hello, and welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Mary, and this is Beth, and we're part of the team at Writing Magazine and Writers Online. Hi, Beth, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. I'm really excited about our guest this week. This week we've got Carl Gorham, who's a TV and radio writer and author. His writing has appeared in The Guardian, The Telegraph Online, Business Traveller magazine, and Broadcast. And he's featured on panels at various TV and animation festivals, as well as giving talks at universities, colleges, and the National Writing Centre in Norwich. His memoir, The Owl at the Window, was published in 2017 and won the East Anglian Book Prize for Best Autobiography. The sequel, My Life in a Garden, comes out next month. Carl's wrote an article for the June issue of Writing Magazine, Green Fingers, a writer's garden, detailing his love-hate relationship with gardening and the parallels between gardening and writing. Hello, Carl. Where are we
Hello,
speaking to you from today?
you are speaking to me from Holt in Norfolk,
Oh,
just on the North
amazing.
Norfolk coast. It's about 10 minutes actually to the seaside. Yeah, very lovely Georgian market town. Lots of history, independent shops, very nice coffees. Yeah, it's a lovely day.
I absolutely love Holt. Me and my partner go camping there quite a lot.
Oh, lovely.
So, yeah, stunning place. There's a really nice place that does like loaded fries along the
Yes,
seaside. And
yes,
every time we go, there's always a massive queue outside.
that's right. That's right. They do very good, a good sort of chili con carne and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I love it there.
Is that your writing space, Carl?
It is, and I'm very fortunate. It's a writing studio that I had built in the garden straight after COVID. I got in very quickly because there was a big explosion in people wanting offices in their gardens, and I managed to get these people to build this space it's half writing and half soundproof music studio. Because I have a parallel life as a musician, as a drummer. So I've got, as I say, one half for that where my drums are all set up and I can play lots of loud music, and then one half dedicated for writing. And it's very, someone said it's a bit like a 1970s newsroom. It's cluttered, definitely cluttered. Lots of I like a piles of things, piles of papers, piles of books, lots of odd little bits of memorabilia. It's a bit, someone also said it's a bit like walking into my mind because it's got a lot, it represents a lot of my interests. I've got books on architecture. I've got a little capsule that's got sand from Omaha Beach, which is where one of the D-Day landings took place. So strange oddities like that. I've got some old parish boundary plates that I inherited from my dad that he lifted out of a skip in 1946. I've got an old Bakelite radio. I've got one of those strange telephones that two-part telephones they used to have in black and white movies. So it's kind of bizarre, but it's sort of also, yeah, it kind of represents my interests, and I like having things around me. I like the energy of that. Um, but it doesn't get cleaned very often because there's a lot of stuff here. And I'm a bit worried about knocking the piles over because I think once the piles merge, they'll never really, I'll never be able to find anything. So it's a delicate balance.
I love the bottle of wine on your shelf in the background
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
no, that. No, I like stories about things. That bottle of wine was given to me by the actress Una Stubbs, the iconic actress from the 60s, 70s, 80s, who was in the famous film Summer Holiday with Cliff Richard, the black and white movie. We're all going on a summer holiday, that one. And I worked with her in the 1980s I was an actor in a TV series. There was an attempt to do a prime time version on BBC One of the Monkees, and it was called Morris Minor's Marvelous Motors. And I was in the band along with a guy called Tony Hawks and another guy called Andy Serkis, who then went on to play Gollum and did all those amazing things in all the Peter Jackson films.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, so it's weird connections. I love all that stuff. I love stories around objects and weird connections. But yeah, actually, interesting thing that Andy Serkis, even then, I remember this is years and years ago in rehearsals, he was always jumping off things and doing kind of gymnastics and was incredibly physically sort of yeah, sort of able in a way. He could do all this sort of gymnastic stuff. And so there you go. That's obviously why later on he became Gollum and did all that stuff. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. And all that memory comes out of looking at the empty wine.
Yes, I know. You see, I've immediately gone down this vast rabbit hole of but that's why I like looking around and thinking, oh, that means that relates to that tells that story. So yeah, lots of odd stuff. Yeah.
Amazing.
Do you find that helps when you're writing?
Helps is it, you could say it distracts. No, it just gives me a good I say good energy. I find those things quite inspirational in a way. They don't directly relate necessarily to what I'm writing, but I like it's just all stories. I like the stories behind things. Um and it's just nice. It's just nice memories as well because I'm quite old now. And obviously, it's nice to look back on these things and to remember people through objects as well. I mean, things like that. When you pointed out that wine bottle, I immediately thought, Eunice Stubbs, bless her, who's no longer with us. But she was a lovely, lovely person and great to work with. But I always think of her when I see that bottle. I've taken us way off down, yes, turned left at the left again, and then left again, and so yes, but yeah, so cluttered, full of meaning for me. I've also got some of my dad's paintings. My dad was a great painter. Odd bits and pieces. I'm just looking up to my left. You got me going now. I'm looking up to my left, and bizarrely, I'm looking at a photo of the lady from ER because signed photo because I did a series called Stressed Eric on BBC Two that was Britain's first adult animation series. There was an American version made that was actually voiced by Hank Azaria,
Oh,
who
yeah.
did a lot of the voices on The Simpsons. And the woman who played his love interest in one episode was Juliana Margulis, who was very big on ER at one point. And I couldn't go to the voice recording she did in the States, so she sent me a photograph, which is one of those classic show busy to Carl. Lots of love, enjoyed the day,
Oh,
So I'm looking up at that. So that's yeah, and that's right next to some weird painting that I picked up at a sale in Southwold. So yeah, all very kind of eclectic.
I love
Eclectic
it.
word.
And are you in there every day writing?
I am in there every day. I'm a creature of habit. I believe in keeping quite fixed hours. So I tend to do 10 till 6 every day. And even if, I like to be at my desk actually at 10 ready to go. And even if I don't work at a constant rate, even if it's quite a slow day, I still like the discipline of it. I'm very into that. And what I also find is that I have my peak hours and I know exactly what the peak hours are going to be. So I will sit down and often the first 45 minutes to an hour is slow, but then I really hit my stride around half 11. So bizarre. You really zone in about half 11, late morning. Then I have lunch, and then early afternoon is quite slow. But then I really all the rest of my best stuff tends to happen after 4 o'clock.
Oh.
And it's always been that way for decades and decades and decades. It's like you have your hot spots. Yeah, so I tend to do that. And I remember years ago reading a thing about the great Charles Dickens, and he had the thing about always being at his desk, even if nothing happened. In fact, what he used to do apparently was he used to doodle. And
Hmm.
if you go to the Charles Dickens Museum, I think you can still see there's in London, I think it's Doughty Street, there certainly used to be a display, and they showed his desk and his sort of writing. I don't know what you call it actually. Like a big writer, sort of like a sheet that he used to lean on, and it was full of doodles. He was a great caricaturist as well. So it was basically all the stuff when he wasn't actually writing, he would just fiddle around. Um, but he really believed in this, do the hours, the discipline of it, and then things will come.
Mm.
And I totally get that. I totally go with that.
It's interesting because a lot of the people that we speak to when we ask them like what their writing day kind of looks like, most people are morning, they get all of their stuff done in the morning, and then
Yeah,
after lunch it kind of you go into that dip. And I'm very much the same. Like my mornings are get as much done as possible, have lunch, and then you get that like after lunch dip where you're like, oh, I'm
yeah,
full and now I'm tired. And then I probably get like an hour or two in the afternoon where I kind of pick up speed again and I'm like, oh, okay, let's get stuff done again. And then just goes again.
Yes, I don't know anyone who says, "Oh yeah, 2 o'clock is just
Mm,
after lunch. That's when I really hit." I don't know anyone that that happens to.
no.
The more writers I talk to, the more variety you can sort of see in how they were. I'm amazed. Even things like, because I'm a big drafter. I write loads and loads and loads of drafts, and the early ones are quite rough, and it's all about honing it down, honing it down. And I didn't really think there were other ways of doing it, but I did meet someone who said they write very, very slowly, and they literally only write one draft. So they perfect it as they go. And I thought, how is that possible?
Mm,
And this person actually wrote very, very good crime novels. So which I would have thought was almost impossible to do,
yeah.
get right first time. But they literally, so they would write five lines a day, but it would be the finished thing. And you
Wow.
think, how is that? Anyway, but just shows you everyone is different. But no, I totally get that. In general, 2 o'clock.
That's fascinating.
Who writes well at 2 o'clock? Yeah. Must be. I bet there we are. A challenge for your audience. Who writes really well at 2 o'clock straight after lunch? I know.
Yeah, I'm sure we could try and find someone, or you
Yes,
might be the only
yes.
person, but we'll find out. And how did you find the transition from writing for TV and radio to then writing a book?
I came to writing the book fairly late in my career, so it felt like a natural progression at the time. So the short answer is I didn't find it difficult. The thing that I was writing felt like it had to go in that form. So therefore, again, it felt fairly okay. And I think whatever form I work in, I've always tried to concentrate on the same things: character, story, the rhythm of the piece, the tone of it, the pace of it, all those sorts of things. So I've almost tried to not think about the form, whether I'm writing a 10-minute animation script or a half-hour live action comedy or a book. I've tried to almost put that to the back of my mind, if that makes sense, and to just focus on the thing itself. So I think that maybe that made it easier as well.
Oh, amazing. And can you just tell us a little bit about your latest book, My Life in a Garden?
Yes, My Life in a Garden is all about the relationship between myself and my garden through a crucial period of my life, a 12-year period from about 2008 till 2020. And it's a period where the garden effectively guided me through bereavement, through recovery, through the start of a new relationship, through the process of bringing up my daughter as a single dad, through my own serious illness. So there was a lot sort of packed in there. Um, and it's about how the garden was a comfort, an inspiration, an absolute joy, a massive annoyance at the same time. Um, and yeah, it's the garden as the prism through which I see and experience all these things, I suppose.
Yeah,
Oh,
as you said, it spans many years.
Mm,
And there are lots of comic moments and also
mm,
lots of tough times and things to overcome and recover from. And I
yes.
initially thought that the gardening would be the thing that helped you through. But I think, as you said, it was sometimes more of a challenge than a balm.
Mm.
Was the writing, do you think, the thing that helped you to make sense of it? Did that become therapeutic?
That's very interesting that the word therapeutic, I didn't write it and feel a huge sense immediately afterwards of having, released something, or I didn't feel different afterwards straight away. In my experience before with various projects, certainly very personal ones like this, it's only after a while looking back that you can really reflect and say, at a distance, that you can say that somehow performed a therapeutic or and fulfilled an emotional need in some way. Um, so I think it's more complex. It's not simple at all. It's really like I think the book as a whole, it's a very mixed picture, and that's what I try, and because I feel that that's what life is. I feel life is very up and down. It's not a clear trajectory. I mean, the book certainly isn't. It's not. It doesn't have a Hollywood ending. I don't go in the book from being a complete numpty gardener to winning a gold medal at the Chelsea Flower Show. Um, it's much more sort of nuanced than that. But again, coming back to that idea that I think that is much more representative of what people's experience, and my experience certainly was.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's a really beautiful chapter where you yourself were recovering from illness, and you could only view the garden from your bedroom window. And you said, "I vow to see myself as I am, a small cog in a vast natural universe." Has that thought stayed with you? Is it helpful to stand back and relinquish control sometimes?
It is, and I'd have to admit that it's something I have experienced, I do experience, and I aspire to, but that I don't necessarily keep to all the time. You know, in my better moments, I can do that, I can feel that. Uh, at other times, I think I lose that perspective, like all of us. You know, you get very wrapped up in details in the smaller things. You don't see the bigger picture. You don't see the fact that you're in this beautiful natural space, and it's such a gift, and it really does put things in perspective, when you take that step back. You know, it's nature is permanent. It's been here, you know, thousands of years, and will be here for thousands of years after we're all gone, and it has this immense strength which you can draw on. um, but it's you don't get the benefit of that all the time because you're not in the right headspace, and it's something you have to continually work at, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think that there are parallels between the creative pursuits of gardening and writing?
Yes, definitely. In as much as, you know, with both, it's about nurturing something over a period. You know, nothing happens immediately in either writing or nature. Nature has its own, processes, as does writing, and you have to honor those if you're sort of working with both things. I think with both, you the more you do them, the better you get at them. They both benefit from experience. I'm a much better writer now than I was decades ago, and hopefully I'm a better gardener too, just through having gone through the processes many times. I think the struggle I certainly used to, and occasionally still do have with gardening, unlike writing, is that, you know, with writing, certainly to get to a finished script, or, you know, manuscript for a book, or script for TV or radio, there's a sense in which you're constantly building. It should generally be on an upward curve. You are constantly improving. You're building on what you've done before, even if you're building in terms of understanding what you did wrong. That's still building, and looking ahead. You know, obviously with gardening, there is that sense that, you know, a deer can come along and eat the flower that you've planted. You know, the weather can destroy it. Nature itself, I mean, you're going to have to go back and do the same thing over and over again with gardening. So it does. Gardening has always felt a little bit to me like writing something and then having someone rip it up at the end of the day, so that you have to go back and do it all again. So there's that element of tension and frustration for me. So that's why I think the two things, whilst they have some elements in common, sort of diverge.
Yeah, I think with gardening as well is there's only so much you can control.
Mm,
Um, like you say, with the weather and stuff, you could do everything absolutely right,
mm.
and one frost will come and kill everything.
Yes,
Um,
yes. I was going to say, and that thing. I mean, you know, for control freaks like myself, that's a difficult thing to get to grips with.
mhm,
And but then I also think that learning to give over control is part of the process of really getting in tune with nature and getting the benefits of it. You know,
mm,
and that's also, I mean, at the same time as expressing this frustration, I have also learnt, of the huge benefits that you can get from just being in nature and ceding control.
mhm,
So it's a mixed picture again. It comes back to this thing that one is always in a fight in life, trying to wrest control, let go of control, and to understand for want of a better phrase, your best self, and
mhm.
how that can get the greatest benefit from all the things around it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to learn a lot of patience as well, don't you? I mean, I started gardening this year properly for the first time, and I bought myself a greenhouse, got myself a load of seeds, and every single day I've been going in that greenhouse and I'm like waiting for something to sprout, like, come on, come on. And I have learned about myself that I am not a patient person at all. And It took, well, I actually planted I've got some dahlia bulbs, and I actually potted them at least a month, maybe 2 months ago. And one of them sprouted ages ago. The other one has only just sprouted, and I've been like, just gonna put it in the bin. It's not growing. It's
Yeah,
dead. I've killed
yeah.
it. And I'm right. My partner Ryan, he's like, no, just wait, be patient. And I'm like, I don't think I can. And I've also been growing a lot of vegetables.
Yeah.
And can I pick one out to see whether I've got any potatoes yet? He's like, you're not gonna have any potatoes yet. I'm like, I just want to see what they look like.
Yes, but again, I think you're absolutely right that there is that thing there of, nature almost teaching you a lesson and saying,
Mm,
hey, chill, be patient. There are these ancient processes that will take the amount of time they will take, and that you as a human being, in your sort of human time frame, can't meddle with these things. They've been around for so long. They are superior to us. These sorts of natural things, they will
Mhm.
outlast us.
mm.
And
So there is a kind of inbuilt lesson, I suppose, there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely teaching me, that's for sure.
it's similar to creativity as well, though, isn't it? Because you can't force that either. And
Mm,
sometimes you have to be patient and wait for the muse to come and the
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the only way, again, I come back to that thing. I always feel more in control of that process, of that writing process, because because I suppose again with experience you evolve techniques for. It doesn't mean you get the answers immediately to the puzzle. I rarely am conscious of, I say, waiting for the muse. I think I'm sort of, it's not so much waiting for the muse with me as sort of I'm actively looking for the muse. So, and I know I will find the muse eventually. So I have a sort of set series of ways of finding the muse. It doesn't mean I will find the muse immediately, but
the
I've kind of got a roadmap. And I think, I'm not trying to make the whole business sound mechanical, but I think that satisfies my sort of personality, the fact that I have ways of working through it. It's a bit like, doing a jigsaw or something like that, is that yes, you may make some false moves, but you will get there eventually because you will have eliminated some possibilities. So that somehow I find that easier to manage than a sense of working with nature where there's still that element of mystery and the unknown, and you may be making a move and it not getting you to move forward in the process.
There's a famous quote, isn't there? Creativity finds you working. And I think that's what you were saying before about having your set hours. And at least
Mm.
you're there, you're
Yes,
working.
yes, absolutely. You can't. I mean, that's the thing is you can't get there without putting the hours. I'm a big one for. I think I mentioned before about drafts. I really hammer it. I really hammer it. It's a bit like I think of it as sculpture, as chipping away constantly in small ways and molding something and shaping it and molding it and shaping it. So yeah, there's no substitute it's graft.
mm.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah, 100%. And on that then, what's next for you then as a writer? Is there something that you're working on that you can
Well,
share with us?
yes, certainly. I'm very excited. I've just finished the first draft of my first novel, which is a crime novel, set in 1970s Brighton,
Oh.
because I'm from Brighton originally, and it's set in the Variety Club world, a vanished world now, but it's a world that I was sort of brought up with because I think I mentioned very originally about my parallel career as a musician. I started very young as a musician, and I started at the age of 14 backing sort of cabaret acts in this nightclub. Would never be allowed now, but sort of, I don't know how it managed. But I had a drum teacher in Brighton who put me in as his dep. He was doing one show, and he used to work regularly at this cabaret club, and he put me in, and I did a Christmas season at the age of 14. And we used to back visiting acts, comedians off the telly, and singers, and yeah, all sorts. And it was a world of that's pretty much vanished now, of nightclubs where they used to have chicken in a basket dinners, and then the band, we used to wear silk frilly shirts and play, and then there was a dance set we used to do, and it used to go on to about 3 in the morning in these nightclubs that were thick with cigarette smoke, had virtually no ventilation, And yeah, but it was also slightly not dodgy so much as sort of it had a real sort of yeah, how would you describe it? It was sort of, well, it was an exciting atmosphere. It was very people like to be seen there. So, all of society would be there, respectable and not so respectable. Yeah, so it was a great, it struck me as a great uh, sort of setting for a novel. And I've always loved crime fiction. Um, I mean, in terms of people that I like to read, I love I say it's slightly different. It's not strictly speaking crime fiction. It's more in the spy area, but I love the mixture of comedy and drama you get in someone like Mick Herron, who
Mm.
the writer of Slow Horses. I'm actually currently reading the Zoe Bohem mystery, Down Cemetery Road. So there's a really good, very tight plot, and it's very atmospheric. I love the sense of place. So again, that brings me back to Brighton and why I wanted to set it there. Yeah, so first draft done. It's out with a few people who are going to read it and give me feedback, and then I'll go back and do another draft. I mean, I think I'm probably still a good 6, 7, 8 months off producing a draft that I want to go out into the marketplace. Um, but no, it's an exciting development.
That sounds really different to the last book as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly chameleon-like in terms of my career. When I look back, even so far, I've done animation, I've done half-hour primetime sitcoms. I've done these memoirs, which are a mixture of comic and more serious stuff. I've got a whole music project that I'm currently working on, which is a jazz project, all about my great uncle, the jazz legend Sir George Shearing, who was basically Britain's most successful ever jazz musician, who went to America to seek his fortune, born in Battersea, born blind from birth, went to seek his fortune in the 40s and 50s and became a big name in America and played with people like Peggy Lee and Nat King Cole. And he wrote a tune called Lullaby of Birdland, which is recorded by Mariah Carey and Amy Winehouse and has since become a big jazz standard. So I remember as a kid going to his concerts and everything. And a few years ago, I had this idea to do something with his music because I inherited this folder. This comes back to stories. And in the folder, when my parents died, were all these old programs and newspaper cuttings about this incredible jazz musician, George Shearing, and amazing photos. Because I even had a photo of him being knighted by the Queen. He was knighted in 2007, 2009. And I actually had a photo of the Queen, bringing the sword down on his shoulder. And I looked into it, and the fascinating thing about that, and the poignant thing about that photo, was that George's father had actually delivered sacks of coal. He was a coalman to Buckingham Palace, but obviously he delivered sacks of coal round the back of Buckingham Palace, and here was George having gone through the front entrance to receive his knighthood. What an incredible sort of summary, of this rags to riches story. So anyway, I wanted to do something about this, and I had a friend who plays with Jules Holland's Rhythm and Blues Orchestra, and he did these amazing new arrangements. And we got together a band and we recorded an album, and we launched it at Ronnie Scott's in London.
Oh,
And we've just recorded album number 2, and we're launching it at Ronnie Scott's on September the 21st this year. And we're also doing other dates. And I do the whole story around, I play in the band, I play drums. We have an amazing lineup of musicians who have played with the likes of Noel Gallagher and Quincy Jones and some incredible names, Tom Jones, Jules Holland. And in between the musical bits, I tell this incredible story about this blind relative of mine who started picking up tunes on a piano at the age of 5, went to blind school, started off in his local pub doing requests for tips in the saloon bar, and then ended up becoming Ella Fitzgerald's intermission pianist in America in these really groovy nightclubs in New York in the 1950s, and went on from there and sold millions of records. So
that,
yeah, so that's a very roundabout way of saying that's another project, and that's very different. But to bring it back to what I originally said, it's a great story.
Mm.
And
Well, you
all the
mentioned,
things I've done have had, that's what always attracts me. So form or actual, even the form of it, where it doesn't matter if it's a TV animation, doesn't matter if it's a live show with music, doesn't matter if it's a memoir, doesn't matter if it's, my first novel. It's to me, it's all about an involving story, and the people in it and how they relate. It's all these that's the constant.
Mm.
The fact that I've tended to branch out in very different areas in some ways, it's kind of irrelevant, I think, in some ways.
I mean, that would make a great novel as well, wouldn't it? Your own
Yes, yeah,
story.
it would, and it's all about. I mean, that's been in my mind as well as almost like the next thing to do. No, because also that sort of time frame, it spans a lost world. George was born in 1919, and his father delivered sacks of coals off a horse and cart. And they used to enter, his dad used to enter horse and cart competitions in Regent's Park. All the coal delivery men used to bring their horses and carts. And I've got a picture somewhere of a giant rosette that was awarded because they were the best in show. That's a forgotten world. That's a London of where people got around by horse and cart. I mean, you know, and then it comes right up to being knighted by the Queen. So incredible span of time.
Well, I hope you write it because I would definitely like
Yes, good,
that.
brilliant. I will. I shall. I shall. I'll put you down on my list of
Yeah,
people to
I'll be a reader.
Yeah. Fantastic.
What advice would you give to aspiring writers?
It may not sound particularly, I'm sure a lot of people say this, but write. Write and write and write, because it's only through actually doing it that I think you do get better and you learn. Again, when I look back, my development, such as it's been, has been through just trying things and doing not very good stuff over and over again, and then slightly better stuff, and then learning and looking back saying, oh, that's not the way to do it, and you could have done that better. The other really big bit of advice I would give, and it sounds in a way not very big at all, is write something, but then leave it as long as you can. Write a draft or something, but leave it as long as you can, and then come back to it fresh and look at it, because it makes such a difference how something looks to you after a period of time. And as I get older, I try and leave things longer and longer and longer between drafts, literally months and months and months, and then come back to it, because it's amazing what you see when you see it anew and what you learn from it. It looks like the work of someone else, so you're able to approach it much more, with a fresh perspective.
That's great advice. We always end by asking for a book recommendation. Do you have one for us?
Yes, well, I did. I think I mentioned earlier. Well, I've got several actually. Down Cemetery Road by Mick Herron. Currently reading. Very good. Anything by Mick Herron, to be honest. I like to reread after a period of years certain things, and I've deep into Joan Didion's Year of Magical Thinking, which is her wonderful memoir about her bereavement, her loss. And then I do a bit of dipping. So I've got books that I've also read before, but I like to dip into my favorite bits of them. You know, if you ever want inspiration for a great ending, I always go to The Great Gatsby, the last paragraph, The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald, and also the Raymond Chandler, crime writer of the 1940s, 50s. Wonderful. The Big Sleep that's one of the great endings. I'm a bit obsessed with endings at the moment. You can tell how to finish something off. The Big Sleep's got a fantastic closing paragraph and a bit, and indeed anything by Raymond Chandler, because that's not just about solving the crime. It's about a wonderful sense of place. Los Angeles in the 1930s, wonderful. You can taste the atmosphere, you can smell what it's like, you can, that's really that's very inspiring. So yeah, so lots of bits and pieces, but I mean, it's the old thing. There's so much great stuff out there.
Excellent, thank you. So Carl's book, My Life in a Garden, is out. Thank you so much, Carl. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for tuning into the Write Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Write Club. Until next time, happy writing.